Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to give all of our registrants a few extra minutes to get into the Zoom. So please hang tight and we will begin the presentation shortly. Okay, we still have some more people joining us, but I'd like to start the presentation just so it will give us enough time to get to the question and answer portion. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our JD info session during our virtual open house week. So this is a special version of our JD info session that we run regularly during the year. My name is Laurel Root, and I'm the Director of Recruitment and Admissions here at the School of Law. In my role, I help counsel students throughout the application process, learning about UB, and ultimately to those that are accepted, help them with the enrollment process as they begin to, plan for their journey as a law student. We hope you've been enjoying our sessions this week, which so far have included the welcome from the dean and the student panel. This presentation in the session today will give you a comprehensive overview of our programs and the application process. I will move through these slides as quickly as possible so that we have plenty of time for questions at the end. Reminder that this webinar is being recorded, so please keep yourself muted during the presentation and use the chat feature to ask questions if there's anything you want to get to before we open that up to questions at the end. Also, keep in mind that we have more events as part of our virtual open house week, with the final 2 sessions occurring tomorrow, including the application tips webinar with Dean Gladney and the alumni panel moderated by my colleague, Kristen Kelly. So thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we're going to go through a presentation, really capturing the overview of the law school and the application process, and then we will be able to have time for questions at the end. You might be asking yourself why UB Law as you're researching law schools. The School of Law was founded in 1887, which means we have a 136-year track record of educating future lawyers. We are the only law school in the SUNY system. In addition to offering a top-notch education at a world-class university, we're affordable. At UB, you'll find a supportive environment with one-on-one faculty advising and a low student-to-faculty ratio. We are the only law school within a 2-hour drive of Buffalo. Our students have first dibs on all that Western New York's legal community has to offer. In addition to that, we have a loyal network of nearly 13,000 alumni, not just here in Buffalo, but across the state and country. The JD curriculum begins with our first-year curriculum. That includes 6 doctrinal courses, which provide the foundation for subsequent legal study. A signature component of the JD program is our legal analysis, writing, and research program, which is we call Lawyer for short. And that requires students to take 3 semesters of research and writing, and 2 of those are in that first year, obviously in addition to those 6 doctrinal courses that I mentioned. Throughout this time, our students are devoting a significant amount of attention to the skills that they will need to practice law. Our legal skills program also offers upper level courses in trial technique, litigation and non-litigation skills, appellate advocacy and mediation, as well as academic support and professional development. So while you do have some flexibility in choosing your courses for 2L and 3L, that 1L curriculum is prescribed, meaning you are completely placed in your section, you are registered for your courses, you are handed your schedule by the School of Law, and then beyond that, you are able to tailor your upper level coursework to what your interests are. The first year is set up to focus on academics. When I spoke about those doctrinal courses, these are the courses that I was referring to. And I said the 1L curriculum is prescribed. So we have a really exciting event that we started this past year, which is a section reveal. And all of our admitted students are invited to come to campus before the fall semester starts, before orientation begins. And they are given an envelope, and all students are invited to open their envelopes at the same time. We have a little reception, so all of our students can figure out which section they have been placed in for their 1L year. So it's a really exciting event where students get to figure out their schedule a little bit ahead of time and start networking with their future colleagues, their fellow students. At the end of the second semester of law school, when you're registering for your 2L year, if you're interested, you can apply for, or you can add a concentration or curriculum program. So there are a total of 9 that we have on here, with our newest one being the newest are the advocacy and the sports law concentrations. Completion of the requirements of a concentration or a curricular program distinguishes you as someone with an unusual level or knowledge of mastery in your field. Curricular programs, the 2 that are listed there, are similar to concentrations. However, they also culminate in a small intensive capstone or curriculum course designed to pull together the student's knowledge and experience. So this is optional. It does not change the JD that you are earning, with completing law school, but it's going to give you expertise in a certain area. So that is something you can explore at the end of your second semester of law school. Not something you're designating on your law school application, but you might want to mention your interest in a certain area of the law, in your personal statement or throughout the application process. Not required, but just keep this in mind that this is an opportunity for upper level students. Our clinical legal education program offers practice opportunities to 2L and 3L students. Our law students are considered members of the School of Law's clinical legal education program, law practice, and they are admitted to practice under a temporary practice order. So this is really exciting. We currently have 9 clinics, and one of those is a civil rights and transparency clinic, which is a litigation-focused clinic with a dual mission: to defend civil liberties and civil rights and to press for greater transparency in government. Some of their cases focus on housing discrimination, police misconduct, and freedom of information challenges against the government. Students in this clinic take first chair. Well, students in any of the clinics are really taking first chair, meaning that they write briefs, argue motions, and interact directly with clients. Here, this slide features the clinic's new community partnership to counsel clients through the anxiety-inducing process of disputing debt. The clinic works with Western New York Law Center's free legal clinic, which is called the Civil Legal Advice and Resource Office. And on Tuesday evenings, specifically, this is set up at this point on the semester, UB Law students take turns working with low-income clients who visit them at a public library seeking help. Typically, clients have received notice of default on debt or notice of garnishment, big trouble for people living paycheck to paycheck. Under the supervision of practicing attorneys, the students assess their situation, review the legal options, fill draft motions, respond to discovery requests, and appear in Buffalo City Court seeking to vacate judgments or state proceedings. So that's a really great way for how our students are getting involved. We have a comment on the slide, a testimonial from one of our 2Ls about the impact that she's been able to make, with this clinic. So there are definitely opportunities to get that hands-on experience throughout law school. Like clinics, our second and third year students can work with practicing attorneys and various externship placements with government and nonprofit agencies. Our externships give students the opportunity to provide legal work, deal with real clients, and observe licensed attorneys in every aspect of practice. The School of Law offers more than 50 externships to students each semester, and those are involve academic credit. Oops, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The pro bono scholars program that we have a long tradition of providing pro bono services to help low and middle income individuals and community organizations as they navigate a wide variety of legal issues. Our pro bono scholars program gives third year law students the opportunity to take the February New York bar exam before they graduate, then work full-time in pro bono placement for their final semester. So just in case you didn't know, typically, when you graduate law school, you're going to plan to take the July bar. Through the pro bono scholars program, our 3L students in this program take that bar exam early, which is exciting. And then they're getting that full-time work experience during that final semester. Over the past few years, the pro bono scholars have served in the following placements. So this will just give you, a sampling of areas that they have worked in: Neighborhood Legal Services, the Erie County Bar Association Volunteer Lawyers Project, Center for Elder Law and Justice, Journey's End Refugee Services, the Legal Aid Bureau of Buffalo, and that's just naming a few. More than happy to point you in the direction of externship placements that we have on our website. We have a long list of externships that students have participated in the past, so we can put that information in the chat for you in case you are interested in a particular externship opportunity. And if there's anything that interests you and you want more information about it, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to provide more information. Our Advocacy Institute serves as a host to our programs in trial advocacy, appellate advocacy, and mediation. These programs provide students with training from leading judges, trial attorneys, and faculty. We currently have 10 mock trial teams, 6 moot court teams, and 5 mediation teams. Not only do students hone their advocacy and appellate skills, but they learn from real practitioners, many of whom are our own alumni. So that's an exciting opportunity. We also have a New York City program in finance and law. This gives students an opportunity to live and study in New York City for a full semester. It runs each spring and draws on the expertise of both our faculty and a group of alumni who are practicing at the epicenter of finance in New York City. The program's curriculum is built around core practice areas related to corporate finance, capital markets, financial services, regulation, and compliance. Our Manhattan classroom and site visits, through that, our students get a feel for the realities of practicing in the world of finance. Our students work on a semester-long group project to hone their abilities and deepen their engagement in corporate finance practice. There are so many opportunities for law students to get involved in activities outside of the classroom that include both policy and practice. One organization that we feature here, one of our student orgs, is the Buffalo Public Interest Law Program, which we call BPILP, which was formed by students in 1979 to encourage law students to use their talents to bring equal access to those in need of legal help. Since 1993, this goal has been accomplished through providing paid fellowships to students who spend their summers working in the public interest sector. BPILP is hosting its next annual auction. I believe it's March 31st, which is the same day as our accepted student visit, but that will be happening in the evening. So it's a great event, and we really, it's a great mission to help for public interest law as well. We also have law journals, moot court teams, and trial teams. So there's really a lot to get involved in outside of the classroom. However, we do say during your first year, during 1L, you need to focus on academics. So that means limiting your outside activities for these student organizations. But once 2L starts for you, you're really able to dive into these organizations and get involved more. Whether you know exactly what you want to do with your degree or you want to sample a lot of different practice areas, our Career Services Office is a source for information and assistance in planning and pursuing summer academic year and post-grad opportunities. There is a mandatory mentor program with an annual kickoff in January, which is a mentor matching reception. So that's exciting for our new students to get involved in. Through that mentor matching program, so you get paired with someone that's either in your intended practice area or perhaps geographically where you want to practice after graduation, if that is a factor. So it's a great way to start networking during your first year and establishing those relationships. There's also an annual career fair in February. Participating organizations include law firms, public interest organizations. There are legal service providers that attend, corporate law departments. So if you're interested in being an in-house attorney, banking and finance industry compliance departments, and government agencies. Seeking to increase the quality of representation and provide better resources to Public Defender's Office, New York State allocated up to $250 million to hire additional lawyers to do this work. In response, UB School of Law partnered with various state organizations to host the New York State Public Defender's Career Law Fair, the first of its kind, and that was started in fall of 2018. So you might be asking yourself, where do you start with the application process? Everything is through the Law School Admissions Council. So you sign up for the free account through LSAC. Everything is done through that portal. So when people are asking about our application process, we always point them to the Law School Admissions Council. The website walks you through all the particulars of applying. Through their website, when you're signing up for this free LSAC account, you are also given access to the Khan Academy, which provides free LSAT prep materials. So that's a great way to jumpstart your LSAT prep in case that is your exam of choice for admission to law school. Keep that in mind that there are resources available, and we'll talk about some more LSAT resources a little bit later towards the end of the presentation. But this is the portal where all students will be applying to law school. The application itself, to be eligible for admission, you must be earn your undergraduate degree by the time that you begin law school. So we do have students that are, in their senior year that are applying to law school. That's completely fine. They're planning to have all their degree requirements and diploma by the time that they begin law school. And then you either have to take the LSAT or the GRE. So it is up to you which one you take. We do have some GRE FAQs on our website. For example, if you take the LSAT and also the GRE, which score are we going to look at? Ultimately, we would be looking at your LSAT score. That's just one type of question that we get about the LSAT or GRE. It is up to you which exam you want to take. If you take the GRE, by no means are you at a disadvantage with your application. It is completely your choice, but in the situation where you're taking both exams, that LSAT is going to be given that primary consideration in terms of that component of your application. Other application requirements include subscribing to LSAC's Credential Assembly Service. So this is the service that LSAC provides when they collect all of your transcripts and they compile your LSAC GPA, which actually might be different from your institutional undergrad GPA. So keep that in mind. We have a blog on our website, our law blog that dives into the LSAC GPA. So feel free to look at that in case this is news to you, that you're surprised that your LSAC GPA might be different from your undergraduate GPA. I'd recommend giving that a look. Official transcripts are all submitted to the Law School Admissions Council, as well as your recommendation letters. We only require one letter to complete your file, but you really should be supplying between 2 to 3 letters of recommendation to be able to have a competitive application and make sure that those letters are strong. You also need to submit a personal statement, which is between 2 to 2.5 pages, double spaced, 12-point font, and your professional resume. So that is all part of the application process. What goes into the application review, which is a holistic review process. The timeline for each year, our application opens up September 1st of each year. File review will begin in November with our early decision applications. Obviously, we're past that at this point. And then after that point, the admissions committee reviews and decisions files on an ongoing basis. Our priority, which is a soft application deadline, our priority application deadline is March 1st. So that's going to give you the best consideration for admission as well as merit scholarships. So we can talk a little bit about merit scholarships in a few slides. But in terms of the timeline, these are the major milestones. If you are admitted, the deposit deadline for admitted students is April 15th. So our application for fall 2023 is currently open in case you haven't applied yet. We highly recommend that you get that application in no later than March 1st. That's the priority application deadline. There is no perfect equation to admission. The admissions committee uses a holistic review process, as I said, and that considers each component of the application. There are numerical and non-numerical components, and we always tell applicants that their numbers hold no meaning without a backstory. How do you tell that backstory? That is comprised of your personal statement, your resume, and your letters of recommendation. Ultimately, there are 3 outcomes for an application. Admitted and denied are clear outcomes, but we also have a waitlist option. So the waitlist process, while we do administer that waitlist, every year we're using historical data to predict how many offers of admission we need to make in order to fill the class. Since historical data are imperfect predictors, we maintain this waitlist in order to cushion ourselves should we encounter unexpected fluctuations in yield rates. The percent, in terms of our recent years, we have admitted anywhere between 18 to 42 people from the wait list for those cycles. So if you are waitlisted, that obviously does provide you opportunity to meet with admissions, understand ways that you can submit additional documentation to be able to strengthen your application. So keep that in mind. We also have a waitlist FAQ on our website. And I'm more than happy to take questions at the end of the presentation about the wait list if you have any. 2 years ago, we launched our Admitted Student Mentor Program. In this program, we pair admitted students with current law school students, which are 2Ls and 3Ls. There are email communications that are sent regularly, and admitted students have an opportunity to ask questions and get to know the School of Law community better. So while we in the admissions office are more than happy to answer any questions that you might have, we know that admitted students want to talk directly to our current students. So there are lots of opportunities to interact through closed social media groups. So this year we launched with the help of our admissions coordinator, Ben Rogers. He created a LinkedIn group, a closed LinkedIn group for the admitted students to start, networking, getting to know each other. And then we also have other opportunities with Instagram takeovers, and various events that will happen through the accepted student events that we are offering both in person and virtually this spring. So if you're admitted, you'll be, or if you, at this point, if you've already been admitted, you will be connected with your admitted student mentor within the next few weeks. So look out for that, and also know that, if you're in the application process right now, you're also going to have that as a resource in the event you are admitted. Our class of 2025 profile is listed here. This gives you an idea of what was competitive for admission from this last year's entering class. So we brought in 143 students, and the median LSAT was a 156. The median GPA was a 3.61, and then you can see the 25th and 75th percentiles for those. The median GRE, so since we know that the GRE is also an option, the median GRE verbal score was a 157. The median GRE for the quant section was 154, and then the median GRE analytical writing section was a 4.5. On our website, you can see our enhanced class profile for more information, including undergraduate majors and colleges represented. Even though we do get applications from UB undergrads, we have students from a variety of undergrad institutions that end up attending UB. So when students ask if their application is competitive, obviously we can't do a full review of your application, before you submit your application. It's a holistic review process. You have to submit everything. In terms of just understanding if your numbers alone are competitive, obviously your numbers alone are not telling the full backstory. We look at everything. This will give you a good idea how competitive your application stands just based on those quantitative aspects. Tuition and fees. So this is the published rates for this current academic year. There are also merit-based scholarships. So I mentioned, a few slides ago that March 1st gives you the best timing for consideration for admission as well as merit scholarships. So there isn't anything extra that you have to do to apply for merit scholarships. You're automatically considered if you are admitted. And last year, just about 80%, so 79% of our fall 2022 entering class received some form of merit scholarship. So that varies based on the academic credentials of the individual. Keep in mind that there are also, other options in terms of financial aid for our students that are eligible for federal student aid. You have to submit your application through FAFSA for that. There are also Perkins loan and college work study opportunities. They're campus-based awards. You do, if you are going to be eligible for those, make sure that you're submitting your financial aid application early, because those funds are awarded on a need and first come, first serve basis. In terms of the loans that are available to students through the federal government, you have the unsubsidized loan, which is a maximum of $20,500 per academic year. The current interest rates are posted there on that slide. And then there's another component that's available, the Federal Direct Plus loan, which is a credit-based loan that is available to graduate and professional students. The university itself has a central financial aid office that processes all of those financial award packages. So Once you enroll as a student, you pay your deposit, you're registered, your information is sent over to that office. And provided that you have filled out that application for federal aid, they're able to process your aid package. So definitely keep in mind that the earlier you do that, the better. You do not have to be admitted to a school to be able to apply for financial aid. So perhaps you've already applied to UB, you're awaiting your decision. You can fill out the free application for federal student aid already, and add UB as one of your schools, so that in the event that you are admitted and you pay your deposit, the university can start processing your financial aid as quickly as they're able to, based on what their processes are. Housing. So if you're not from the Buffalo area, or maybe you are, you might be wondering, where am I going to live during law school? So there's on-campus housing, and those are through Flint Village and Creekside Village, where they both have, upper level graduate houses, housing that's specific. They'll end up reserving some spaces for law students. And then in the event that those aren't filled, they'll fill those with also other graduate students, as well as potentially upper level undergraduate students. But that gives you some idea. Flint Village, which they have 1 or 2 bedroom apartments in the building reserved for law students, and then Creekside Village, which has the 2-bedroom townhomes. We also have, recommendations for off-campus housing. Keep in mind that this is not an exhaustive list, but we're more than happy to point you in the right direction in terms of private apartments and, different opportunities that are available near the School of Law, as well as in the city of Buffalo and the neighboring suburbs. So since we're a premier public research institution with approximately, at this point, we're over 30,000 students, there is ample student housing. So if you're, from out of state, from out of town, there's a lot that you can choose from in terms of whatever your preference is for housing. Definitely keep in mind that you want to start that research process sooner than later, because stuff will fill up pretty quickly throughout the beginning of the summer and possibly even the end of the spring, as people are making their decisions for what they're going to do for the fall. We do have LSAT prep events. So this is a great resource to have in case, you don't know where to start with your LSAT prep. I did mention the Khan Academy, available those free resources through the Law School Admissions Council, but perhaps you do better with some kind of structured session in terms of incorporating that into your test preparation. So check back on our website, because we will have the dates posted for 2023 for LSAT prep workshops and LSAT practice tests. So these sessions are run by an alumna who is one of only a handful of test takers who scored a perfect LSAT. So perfect score of 180. She runs these sessions. She has a passion for education, and that extends to sharing her knowledge of the exam, the LSAT, and she's happy to teach the secrets of how she succeeded on the LSAT and aspire future law students. So check back on our website. This is a great opportunity to figure out, even if you've been studying for the LSAT for a little while and there are some sections that are tricky for you, maximizing your test preparation so you are, getting the most points possible for your test. So keep that in mind. And we'll be sending information out through our marketing emails as well for future sessions, but you can also check back on our website. So at this point, we will open it up for questions. In case, you don't get a chance to ask your questions, we still have, about another half hour. So we have plenty of time. If something comes up later, feel free to reach out to our office. Our email address and phone are both listed there. You can also schedule an admissions visit to meet either virtually or in person with one of our staff members. So keep that in mind. But I want to open up the session for questions. I will end our slideshow, and this way I can see all of your faces. So feel free to unmute yourselves, turn your cameras on, or you're more than able to also submit your questions via the chat, and I will pull up the chat just to see if we have anything so far. So Erica had a question, how long does it typically take to hear back about your application? So once you submit your application and, our office verifies that we have all of the required components, it might take a few weeks for the your file to go into review with the admissions committee. So depending on the volume of applications, that could take a few weeks. So the timing is dependent on that. But once your application does go into review with the admissions committee, it will take approximately between 4 to 6 weeks for you to receive that decision. So you can actually use our online status checker. So when you applied and we received your application and your materials from the Law School Admissions Council, we sent you an email with the information for your online status checker. So you can go on there and you can see exactly where your application is. The status of that application, you'll see, when it's kind of like pending verification, which is when we first receive it, if it's complete, if it's in review with the admissions committee, you'll be able to track that. Just keep in mind that once it does go into review with the admissions committee, the typical time frame is between 4 to 6 weeks for that that notification for the admissions committee's decision. Another question from Erica, how heavily would you say you weigh those numbers, LSAT, GPA, in comparison to the written portion? There really isn't an equation in terms of like how we're weighing things. Everything is looked at holistically. So, I mean, for example, someone could have a really strong LSAT score, really strong undergraduate GPA, and there might be other indicators that they might not be the best fit for UB. So we're trying to assess, who is going to be the best fit for our law school. So a lot more than that goes into that equation than just that LSAT and the GPA. And that's why it's going to be so important for you to convey your interest and your strengths through that personal statement, as well as your resume. So we're not just looking at that LSAT and GPA alone, or, GRE and GPA. We're looking at everything. So it's great to be able to have a strong LSAT and GPA, but we're also assessing, why do you want to go to law school? Why is this the next step for you? And we want to make sure that, based on our program offerings, it's going to be the best fit for you as well. A question about scholarships. Do you all accept outside scholarships that students receive? So outside scholarships, it depends on the scholarship. So, I mean, for us from a scholarship perspective, there are external scholarships. So that would be on students to research those external scholarships and check to see if we are able to, our program would fit their requirements. Provided someone is willing to submit, funds on your behalf via scholarship, that's fantastic. You would just have to make sure that that particular scholarship is for like a JD program or your particular situation. So there are absolutely external scholarships. Without knowing what the scholarship is, I can't really tell you yes or no, but I would just encourage you to reach out to those scholarship providers or the agency and just verify that that type of scholarship would be eligible for law school study. So I would say that there are students that do have external funding. So that does happen, but you definitely have to check the specifics. That's a great question. There's a question about the application timing. So if you apply after March 1st, your chance for a merit scholarship can be impacted, correct? Yeah, so in terms of the best timing for consideration, it will be by that March 1st deadline. It's possible that we'll still have plenty of merit scholarship funds available after that March 1st soft application, but it all depends on the offers that have been extended to students, how competitive the applicant pool is. So that's our best advice in terms of improving your chances for admission as well as merit scholarships. Get your application in by March 1st. We will continue to receive applications and consider them until all seats have been filled. So that's, it's not a hard deadline by any means, but when students ask, okay, you don't have a hard deadline, but when should I apply? That's our advice. What needs to be done to apply for merit scholarships? So you don't have to do anything beyond the actual application to UB Law. So you're automatically considered for merit scholarships. That means that you don't have to submit a supplemental application. If you are admitted to the law school, you're automatically considered for merit scholarships. So nothing else is required on your part beyond, submitting a really strong application that is going to reflect your academic abilities and your potential to contribute to the legal community as a JD student. How many students would participate in a given clinic? So each clinic, it varies. It depends on what their capacity is and the work that is available, I believe. So that is all through an application process. So it's possible that you might be interested in a variety of clinics, and you're applying for a couple in the event that you might not get into your first choice the first time. But that's common, and you can only participate in one clinic per semester. So in terms of any particular clinic, I don't have any data on those specific enrollment per semester for those 9 clinics. But I think we have a data point. Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, is it approximately, I want to say around half of our students end up participating in some clinic during their time in law school? I believe it was either 50 or something like 50 or 60%.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
And I know that on Monday, the dean stated that each clinic had typically between like 8 and 12 students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, I mean, while not all students take advantage of this, it's a great opportunity for experiential learning. We have a lot of other opportunities for experiential learning as well. So it just depends on what your goal is, or what your goals are for after graduation, so that, you're setting yourself up for, the best chance at the opportunities that you're going after. Thank you, Dean Gladney. Okay, another question. Since I have already interned within Erie County Legislature and the Legal Aid Bureau, should I add that to my personal statement? So it's possible that would make sense to add it to your personal statement. The personal statement is an open prompt, so it's really anything that you want to discuss. You definitely want to add that to your resume. That's something that you'll absolutely want to feature in there. And then the content of your personal statement, if you do end up putting that in there, it just depends on what the overall structure of your personal statement is going to look like. But based on that experience of working with Erie County and Legal Aid Bureau, that seems like it would be, a really useful thing to include in your personal statement. We do have a law blog post that covers tips and tricks for the personal statement. So we can put that in the chat. That's a great thing to be able to, just take a look at before you tackle your personal statement. There are a lot of good examples in there. So you can head to our law blog to look at that. Is it recommended to wait to apply if a potential student would need to request a deferral? So we know that there are students that might need a deferral for various reasons. We do have a deferral policy that if you are admitted, you'd have to request that deferral no later than June 1st. So it depends on your situation. If you already know that you would not choose to enroll for this coming fall, it's going to be in your best interest to just apply for the intake cycle that you're actually intending to begin law school. Otherwise, you're going to potentially lose your spot if we can't accept that deferral, or if scholarship funds aren't able to be extended. And Dee Gladney, thank you for posting the link to the deferral policy that covers it in detail about the requirements for submitting a request for a deferral. And I would encourage you to make an appointment to speak with us directly. Every situation is different. For example, we have students that are in the military, and they know that there's a possibility that they might be deployed. In that situation, I think that we are absolutely able to work with students. That is a situation where you don't have any control, and we absolutely understand that. It just depends on the situation. But if, like, for example, if you know that you want to take a gap year and you're just applying ahead of time because you want to get your application in, that would not be the best situation for a deferral. So definitely, Cheyenne, right? Make an appointment with us. And we can talk through kind of, based on our experience, how likely a deferral request would be, how likely it would be to be accepted based on the situation. And we can, come up with a plan regarding the best time. So in terms of early decision, our early decision deadline for fall of 2023 has already passed. But if someone's interested in early decision for, fall of 2024, or beyond, you can look at our early decision. Thank you, Kristen, for posting that, our early decision, website in terms of, the agreement that entails. So in terms of applying for early decision, that is a binding contract, in the event that your application is accepted. So you would have to apply by November 15th of, prior to the year that you're looking to gain admission to law school. The School of Law will complete its review process and render a decision by December 15th. In the event that you are accepted, you have to submit a seat deposit by the date noted within your offer letter. Additionally, you cannot initiate any new law school applications. You have to decline any other law school acceptances, and you must immediately withdraw any pending law school applications. So failure to honor those commitments will result in you be revoking its offer of admission. So it's not necessarily that you can't apply at the same time. It's if you are admitted, you have to cancel all other applications. So that's how that works. Based on your situation, early decision might make sense. It might not make any sense. So we do encourage students to speak to us directly if they are contemplating applying via early decision. And I want to take a minute. I mean, we can keep going through the chat questions. Does anyone want to come on audio or video and ask any questions? Don't be shy.
I did have a quick question about, hi, well, thanks for coming in and doing this for us, but I had a quick question for those who are not applying for early decision. By when would you think we should hear by?
So it depends on when you submit your application. So, I mean, if we're
Like this
typically, I'm sorry, what was that?
Like this month, for example.
So if let's say if an application is complete and we have that today, within a few weeks, it should go into review with the admissions committee. It all depends on the timing of that. And the volume of applications that we've received, because each file will go through a robust review by the admissions committee, often with several members of the admissions committee. So once it goes into review and you see in your status checker that your application is in review, it typically takes between 4 to 6 weeks for an application to receive, its decision. So I would say once it goes into review, 4 to 6 weeks. But that is contingent upon the application being absolutely complete, where the admissions committee is not requiring anything else. So it's really important to submit that application that's going to be, competitive and thorough, so that the admissions committee is able to make their decision during that first review.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Do we have any other questions that anyone wants to ask via audio or video?
So just to be clear, you're saying probably like closer to 6 to 8 weeks.
I mean, it just depends on how many files we have to put into review at that particular stage. So, I mean, once we start getting into February and March, it takes a little bit longer for files to be put into review because of the volume. Because we can only have so many files reviewed at once with the admissions committee. So, I mean, it could be between that 6 to 8 time frame in terms of weeks. It just depends on the volume of applications. We are up with application volume year over year. So keep that in mind. We do have an increase in application volume. So it'll be really important to get your application in by that March 1st deadline. And then we're hoping to get decisions out as soon as we can. But just keep in mind that we absolutely do a thorough, holistic review of all applications. And we want to give everyone their proper consideration, so we do not rush any aspect of the review process. Yep. Taylor, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I guess so I'm a little bit behind. Like I started the LSAC application and everything. I have like my transcripts and like my LSAT scores and everything, but is that do you send in the personal statement through the LSAC?
So yeah, everything is done through the portal. So you send in your transcripts, you'll send in, like your test scores, everything are compiled in there. The
Yeah.
other component is filling out the UB application. So when you go in and you're figuring out which schools you want to submit an application for, you'll select
Right.
UB, and then it'll bring you through our questionnaire, where you're responding to those UB specific questions that we want to
Yeah.
capture on our application. And then once you get to the end of that, it will prompt you to upload the materials that we require. So the personal statement will be one of them, the resume will be another, and then you have the option of uploading additional documents, such as the Why Buffalo statement, but it'll be within that UB application. It'll just be after you get through the questions. That's a great.
Okay. And that's all through the LSAC.
Yes. Yeah, so it'll all be through their portal. So everything is, going to be through LSAC. And, if you do submit your application and you decide, oh, I have an updated version of my resume and I want that to be included instead, you can just email us. So our email, law-admissions@buffalo.edu. I can put that up there, or we can put that in the chat again. If there are any changes to your application, or you want us to swap out materials in terms of your personal statement or your resume, we can absolutely do that. We'll just update your file.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
Hi, I also have a quick question. So for students who are anticipating taking and using their score for the February LSAT, do you recommend trying to get all of your other materials in before? I guess what I see you nodding, I guess kind of I'm also wondering, the second part is, can other materials be reviewed and considered before our application is completely complete?
So we absolutely recommend, especially in a situation where, you're taking the February LSAT, so that we can start reviewing your application as soon as possible when that test score is in. Submit your application. Within the application, you will designate, because there's a section on there of standardized test scores. It'll say that you are registered for an upcoming LSAT. You'll include that. We'll know that when we receive your application, and we will go through and process all of the materials that you have provided so far. So we'll make sure that you have all of your transcripts, that you have your resume, your personal statement, your letters of recommendation are all in there, and that we're just waiting for that standardized test score to be released. We will put your application, mark it as incomplete, knowing that that test score will be submitted. That is the best way to do it, because it cuts down on the processing time from when your test score is received. So if we've already done all of that processing and we're just waiting for that test score, that's going to be the best case scenario to getting you into review as soon as possible. The admissions committee itself will not review your application until that test score is received, but the admissions office, from a processing perspective, will review it to make sure that we have all the required components and that we're just waiting on that test score. So you actually won't go into review with the admissions committee until after that test score is received. But it's a great way to set you up so that that we're just waiting for that score. And then once it's received, we'll be able to put you into review.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. Was that clear?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. How about any other questions? We still have some time. It's 12:51 before I go back to the chat questions. Okay, I will go back to the chat ones. In terms of the LSAT score that gauges how much aid you get, so I'm not sure what determines how many funds gets in scholarship.
Laurel, I did chime
Yeah,
in on that
okay.
question.
Yep. Sorry,
Sorry.
just trying to catch up. Lindsay, do you want to cover your response then?
Sure, yeah, so just for everyone, if they're not checking the chat, we do primarily look at test scores and undergraduate GPA, but the committee will also consider any graduate coursework you may have pursued, research experience, professional work experience, whether that's legal related or not, leadership experience, et cetera. All of that could be considered when determining merit scholarship awards, but primarily we are looking at your test scores and your undergraduate GPA.
Great, thank you. Is it possible to study more than one concentration? Terms of the concentration, I believe it depends on your schedule and the timing of courses. Typically, I believe that our students are only pursuing one concentration. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Dean Gladney. I mean, you're devoting a significant number of credits to a concentration or a curricular program. So in terms of pursuing multiple concentrations, it really depends on if that would fit with your schedule, the course availability. I would say I don't know if Dean Gladney has anything to interject with that.
I think it's been done before, but it's highly unusual that someone would dual concentrate. And as Laura was saying, it would depend on when the courses were offered and whether it was actually possible to take the requirements for two different concentrations, simultaneously in the 2L and 3L year.
And then keeping in mind that there are a lot of experiential learning opportunities that you might want to take advantage of. So even though you might be interested in multiple concentrations, you don't have to pursue a concentration in order to pursue coursework in that area. So you can still select coursework from, something that you may have pursued a second concentration in to be able to take advantage of other opportunities as well. So that's something that's really covered during your advisement sessions with your faculty advisor. Keep that in mind. So those conversations really begin during your second semester when you're deciding, what your schedule is going to look like for the beginning of your 2L year. Do you only start incoming classes in the fall semester? Yes. So we only do a JD for new students. It only begins in the fall. Do you have online courses, or is the JD program only in person? This is a full-time in-person day program. So our students devote 100% of their attention, especially during that 1L year, to law school. So this is not a virtual option. It does require for you to be somewhat local to be able to make it to class Monday through Thursday. But typically, in terms of the 1L schedule, classes are offered Monday through Thursday. You're registered into your section. Classes will begin in the morning around 9 a.m. and then you're in until the late afternoon with a break in between for your classes to be able to get lunch. So keep that in mind. This is a time commitment. It is investing in your future, your legal career. This is not an online program. And how many students are accepted each year? That varies. So it depends on the number of applications that we get, the yield of our offers. So if you go to our website, I believe on the class profile, if I'm pulling it up right now. So you can see, we'll put this in the chat. You can see the number of applications that we received last year. So we received 872 completed applications, and we ended up enrolling 143. Obviously, we admitted more than 143 students. So it just depends on, ultimately who accepts our offer. But typically our entering classes around that number. In terms of the number of sections and the availability of, classes for enrolling new students, that is a factor. So even if we receive, like I said, this year applications are up, that does not mean that we are going to enroll a bigger class, because what is really important is making sure that the students that are beginning with us, all of our law students, have the resources that are needed to be able to succeed in law school. So we would not be over enrolling just because we have received an influx of applications. So keep that in mind. We're a medium-sized law school. It's a very collegial environment. We're not in the business of, you know, just filling any seats, and, you know, charging you tuition. Obviously, tuition is kind of the way, you know, a university keeps its lights on. But we also want to make sure that you are taken care of as a student with all of the resources that you need to be able to succeed. So there's, you know, obviously some number between between completed applications and our entering class, but it just depends on a particular year, how many application offers of admission that we are sending out. Let me see, I will check the chat again. So we don't have any new questions. We have 3 more minutes left, so feel free to enter your final questions in the chat, or you can submit them directly. And if you have any questions, you know, after the webinar, we're so excited that you joined us for the JD Info session today as a part of our virtual open house week. We also have those other sessions that I mentioned that will take place tomorrow. The application tips webinar with Dean Gladney, that's always a great one. And then our alumni panel with Kristen Kelly, she's moderating that. That is a fantastic opportunity for you to get an idea what members of our alumni community are up to and what their experience at UB Law had been like, and how also they're still involved in the UB Law alumni community. So it's a great opportunity. A question about the LSAT. So what is the last LSAT score that is acceptable? So in terms of the administration for applying for fall 2023, the absolute last administration that we can consider for admission for this fall would be June. Keeping in mind, I would not recommend that being your last attempt at the LSAT. Maybe if you perhaps, you know, you wanted to retake it, you took it earlier and you weren't happy with your score, I wouldn't wait until June to take it for the first time. And we're more than happy to talk through, you know, our recommendations about that. So, you know, feel free to reach out to us as well. Do we have any other questions? When considering LSAT scores, do you all consider the highest score? So when we receive your score report from the Law School Admissions Council, we see all of those scores. So we'll see a full history. We're not averaging your scores, but we are keeping in mind the trajectory of, if you've taken it multiple times, what that has looked like. So let's say you scored a perfect 180 the first time, and then after that you decide to take it again, which, I mean, I don't know why someone would do that, but perhaps this is a scenario. And then they score a 145. And there are going to be questions regarding that decrease. So keep in mind, if you are taking it multiple times, the history as well as that high score is going to be something that the admissions committee is going to consider. Ultimately, we will report out on your highest score, but we also want to make sure that there aren't any causes for concern within your LSAT test score history. So if there's this particular situation that you want to talk to us about, absolutely make an appointment. We're more than happy to discuss those. And I think that was our final question. So it was a pleasure to have you all on this info session. Really, really happy that you were able to hopefully get some information that was helpful. We are here to help you, so feel free to email us with any questions. I'm more than happy to help. And we hope to see you in the final 2 sessions and make an appointment to come visit us. So we have an opportunity for students, for, you know, applicants to and prospective students to visit us on campus, take a tour. So you can head to our Visit Us page, and there are a variety of ways that you can you know, visit with us virtually or in person. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely afternoon. And if you're in Buffalo, be careful with driving with the snow. It's a lovely part of winter, but we hope you have a great day, and thank you for joining us. Bye.